Hey y'all, it's Caitlin, and in this month's tutorial I'm going to be doing a cutesy Halloween themed custom. I'm going to be making little bitty resin coffin beds for two of my Monster High mini dolls that you saw one of them at the beginning. They were Monster High mini dolls that were put into blind bags, and I have nearly every one that they came out with. So I am making a coffin bed today for Draculara, who is a vampire, and Rebecca, who you saw at the beginning of the video, who is a robot. And I just thought this was a cute, Halloween decoration idea, something like a Halloween village kind of thing. I don't know. I just thought it'd be cute. So to do the beds, I start by getting my easy cast resin, mixing in equal parts of A and B, mixing it together. Make sure you're wearing gloves. Make sure you're wearing air protection, like a mask or something, preferably an apron as well, because this stuff, if it gets on your clothes, it's not coming off. So when I get it all mixed up, I start on Dracularis first, and I put some shimmery white powder into one pearlescent powder, just to give it a bit of a shimmery effect, and then I'm going to split it into two parts, one pink, one black, because those are Dracularis colors. The pink I had to make a little bit more opaque with adding some white, because the pink I have is translucent. But after everything is mixed together, I just add it into the coffin, splotch it here and there, try to make like a random pattern out of it. And by the way, the coffin mold came from Sophie and Toffee. I don't know if it's still available. I got it in their subscription boxes. So I don't know if it's still available, but surely you can get a mold similar to this somewhere on the internet. So after about 2 days of work, because they both take about 24 hours to cure, and I only had one mold. But anyway, as you can see, Rebecca's I made a bronzy color. I was trying to make it look like a rustic metal, and you'll see that later in the video. I actually succeed pretty well at that, I believe. But so I'm going to be making the sheets and the pillows and the accessories and stuff out of clay, and I'm going to be using the epoxy clay, which is kind of expensive. So I wanted to fill in. The mold is meant to be a shaker mold, like a confetti mold, but so I had to fill in the coffin pretty much, just so I wouldn't have to waste so much other material, and if I used like tinfoil or something, it had a chance of turning out a lot lumpier. So I decided to go with hot glue. Cheap, easy, and fairly simple, but I went through about 4 sticks of hot glue just filling both of these things up. So after the hot glue dries, it's time for the epoxy, and again I'm starting with Dracularis here. So I just put equal parts A and B of the epoxy sculpt, mixed it together, made sure it was well combined, and then I start forming the base. And I'm just pretty much forming like a mattress, I guess you could say here. And it's very easy. I'm just going over, filling in the rest of the mold with the epoxy sculpt, and then using some water on the tip of my glove just to smooth it over. This stuff works like air dry clay a lot when you're working with it, and it does cure, in the air. It'll take a few hours for it to cure, if not completely overnight. But once it cures, it is hard, it is rock solid, it is not going to move. It's very hard to break. It will break, but it's hard to break. And it's just really good stuff to work with. I'm going to be using it a lot more in the future, I know that for sure. Again, with more epoxy sculpt, I make a little pillow for Draculara using the pattern on my pliers when you clamp down on either side of the pillow to make it a little ruffled, and I accentuate that with some of my sculpting tools, the little rod of it, and put a little bit more details, and the pillow is done. And then I go ahead and make the mattress and second pillow for Rebecca that looks more like a round pillow. You'll see it here in a minute. With some leftover epoxy, I wasn't originally planning on doing this, but I thought it looked really cool and it was a cute idea. So again, Rebecca's a robot, right? So she was made really of just a bunch of screws and bolts. So I decided with some leftover epoxy to make a bunch of little screws to go all over her coffin to make it look like it had been pre-assembled, like it was literally just put together. So I make a whole bunch of those little round balls, stick it to the sides, try to make it look as even as possible. Didn't quite succeed there. But after which I went back in with my new tool and made little X's like you see on screws. And I actually didn't have enough. I actually had to wait for this epoxy to cure before I can make the next batch of epoxy and create the rest of the screws to complete the casket. So I apologize for my hand being kind of in the way here, but Rebecca actually has little rocket-powered skates built into her feet. So I thought it'd be funny to make it look like the sheets had kind of caught fire in the past, like maybe she was asleep one night and they just sort of went off. So I'm trying to make the bottom corner of her bed look a little bit tattered, like it's kind of broken up and ripped. Later on I'm going to paint it black to match, make it look like a burn, but I thought it was just a cute little accent piece. Then with 2 long snakes of epoxy, I make the little fold over on both of the coffin beds, just to make it look like the comforter has kind of been flipped upside down, just to make the bed, I don't know. I was just trying to accentuate the fact that it is a bed, okay? And I thought it made it work by making it look like sheets, so that's why I did it. So as for the accessories, I knew I wanted to make a little book for Draculara, like a notebook for class, which she ends up doodling her boyfriend's name in, because that's the kind of stuff Draculara would do. A screwdriver for Rebecca, because again, she's into electronics and robotics, obviously. And since I had some leftover epoxy sculpt, I went ahead and made a little teddy bear for Draculara's bed as well. And I actually wasn't planning on making him, but I think he turned out really, really adorable. I'm actually really proud about how well that little bitty, itsy bitsy, teeny tiny teddy bear turned out. I'm very proud of it, actually. So I wanted to make Rebecca's bed look, again, a little bit more rustic, a little bit more mechanical. So what I decided to do was, I originally was going to dry brush it, but then I thought doing the opposite, making it more watered down, would actually have a better effect, and I think I was right. So I took some black paint and put it in some water, mixed it together, make it very, very liquidy, and I was going to just brush the screws over to make them look more like metal. But what I ended up doing after a little bit, I was like, okay, this actually looks a lot better than I thought it was going to. So I actually ended up painting the entire coffin in that. You can still see the base bronze color, but that black really accentuates it and makes it look a little bit aged. So I actually really, it looks more like steampunkish, and if you look at Rebecca's style, that's her style, more like a steampunk. So I'm actually very, very happy with how that black paint turned out with that bed. So as you can see here, I started painting the bed sheets and the pillows, and I mixed the paints into a plate. Not something you necessarily want to do usually, because especially when you're using acrylic paint, because it just doesn't keep. But I honestly was just too lazy to wash out my old paint pots for mixing paint, so yeah. But I would not recommend this, because I did have to end up mixing more paint later on. It just ends up being very, very wasteful, so just don't be as lazy as me. But as you can see, I did Draculara's a still black and pink theme, and then for Rebecca's here, I'm going with a purple and blue theme to match the little doll. Usually I wait until I put all the finishing coats onto one piece before moving on to the next, but with this one, I'll be honest, I was just really anxious to go ahead and just paint the little bear. So I go ahead and mix up a tan color for the bear, and I go ahead and paint the notebook on the bed white also. You can see I painted Rebecca's screwdriver red off camera, as well as some silver for the actual tool. And then I get some black and paint some details on the bear to make it look not perfect, but very, very cute. So I X'd one eye out, put a little dot for the other eye, made an itty bitty mouth and a cute little heart on the belly, and I think it turned out really, really adorable. I later go on and add some brown details to the bear as well. But right after this, I painted some red initials on the notebook of Claude Wolf, Draculara's boyfriend, and a heart on the next page. I used my chalk pastels to make the scorched part of Rebecca's bed look more authentic. I just scraped a little bit of the black off, mixed it with a teeny bit of water on my brush before painting it on. For the outside of it, I made my brush, drier. I wiped the water off and just dabbed it around it. Now, when you put the sealant on it, it does tend to wipe away, so you do have to be careful when sealing it. But this makes a very, very cute effect when you're going for something scorched or burned or something like that. I think it turned out actually really cool. And here are the final results. This was a really fun project to do. You can see I did add a little bit more detail to like the notebook because the heart looked a little bit too much like a playing card. And then, the brown parts to the bear, like I said. I think this was a very cute project. I know it's not necessarily like Halloweeny, like when it comes to like, scary or spooky or something. But it was a very cute project for me to do. I love Monster High and I love doing things like this. So it was just a very cute little activity for me, and I was actually having a blast while doing it. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I do have an idea for the Christmas tutorial, and if you saw my Instagram, then you already have a hint for what next month custom is going to be. It's going to be that little cat that I posted on Instagram, and no one's guessed which character it's going to turn into yet. So if you guys want to hop onto my Instagram and check out the pictures and make a guess, please do. I'm waiting for someone to try and guess it, but no one has yet. But anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this. I know it's a little bit weird, but I really hope you enjoy it because I definitely did. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, like always, it's a community, not a competition. I'll see y'all later. Bye.